What if agriculture wasn't progress, but a panic button? What if the healthiest humans who ever lived were wiped out, not by disease, but by starvation after they hunted their food supply to extinction? This isn't the story you were taught, but it might explain why chronic illness exploded when farming began. Hey everyone, my name is Marc Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this is part of my question and answer series. The Megafauna Collapse: How Losing Our Ancestral Pantry Forced Humans into Farming and Made Us Sick. Okay, let's get to the question. You've painted a picture of humans as specialized fat hunters who thrived for 1.5 million years, then made a costly metabolic trade off with agriculture. But there's a missing piece in this narrative. What happened to all that fat rich megafauna that sustained us for so long? How does the extinction of these animals connect to human migration patterns, and did losing our primary food source actually force us into agriculture as a survival strategy rather than a choice? Absolutely, that is the question. This is the missing link in the story of our metabolic decline. The extinction of a fat rich megafauna wasn't just an ecological shift, it was a nutritional catastrophe that may have pushed humans into agriculture as a last resort, not a grand innovation. Let's connect the dots. So we'll start with the megafauna collapse. Our ancestral pantry vanished. What were the megafauna? Well, for nearly 2 million years, humans hunted massive fat rich animals: mammoths, mastodons, woolly rhinos, giant ground sloths, aurochs, bison, giant elk, gamelids, and megatheriums in the Americas. These animals had high body fat percentage, 10 to 40%, large organs, marrow, and brain tissue, extremely energy dense, and predictable behavior, making them relatively easy to hunt. What happened to them? Well, the late Quaternary extinctions, 50,000 to 10,000 years ago, in that time range, across the globe, megafauna disappeared in a staggered but unmistakable wave. So, for example, in Australia, about 45,000 years ago, right? Giant kangaroos and diprotodons were wiped out. Eurasia, 30,000, 10,000 years ago. Mammoths and cave bears were gone, right? North America, 13 to 11,000 years ago. Mastodons, saber-toothed cats, bisons all disappeared. South America, 11,000 years ago. Giant sloths and glyptodons disappeared. And in the Caribbean, 6 to 1,000 years ago, 6,000 to 1,000 years ago, giant tortoise and and ground sloths were all wiped out, right? So why did they die out? Well, the most obvious and the most acceptable hypothesis scientists have is overhunting, what they call the blitzkrieg model. Human arrival directly overlaps with the extinction timing, right? Uh, appears to be a causation there. Sites show intensive butchering and marrow extraction. These animals had no evolutionary defense against organized human hunting. Climate change theory. Well, once again, we're looking at the Ice Age ended about 12,000 years ago. Shifts in vegetation habitat likely stressed the megafauna. And then you add on all the human predation. And so it probably was a combination of the two, right? Humans armed with tools, fire, and tactics finished what climate started. We didn't just hunt animals, we were apex fat predators. Once megafauna populations dropped, they couldn't rebound. The consequences: from fat hunters to seed gatherers. The nutrition collapse. When these large fatty animals vanished, lean small game, rabbits and deer, couldn't meet fat needs due to the protein ceiling. Seasonal fruits and roots lacked year round availability or calorie density. Humans experienced nutritional distress, right? Evident in the fossil record via stunting, anemia, and bone disease. Agriculture becomes a survival pivot. With no more mammoths or bison herds, we began domesticating fallback plants: wheat, barley, rice, and maize. We shifted from nutrient rich hunting to calorie rich farming. The first farmers were shorter, sicker, and more disease prone than the hunters they replaced. This wasn't dietary progress, it was nutritional triage. Okay, so human migration and megafauna extinction, a perfect match. Wherever Homo sapiens went, megafauna vanished within 1,000 years. Migration into North America about 14,000 years ago, extinction by 11,000 BC. Same pattern in Australia, Madagascar, New Zealand, the Arctic. This supports the idea that our very expansion was fueled by fat, and once we overhunted these resources, our bodies paid the price and our cultures adapted under duress. So, in summary, losing fat meant losing freedom. Before, we were apex fat hunters. After, we became carbohydrate farmers tied to the land. Before, we had seasonal abundance. Now we had year-round labor. Before, humans were robust, tall. We had tall skeletons. Today, we are short, disease-prone farmers. Before, we were nutrient deficiency in what we were eating. Today, we have chronic deficiency, especially of the fat-soluble vitamins. And before, we had autonomy, and now we're dependent on hierarchy in grain stores. Okay? Agriculture didn't lift us from savagery, it rescued us from starvation. After we lost the megafauna that our evolution depended on. In this light, the agricultural revolution wasn't an advancement, it was a metabolic concession. We became civilization builders because we had to be, not because we were thriving. Okay, thanks for watching, everyone. Some interesting topics there. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it in the appropriate section. I do appreciate all the comments. I try to answer all of them. And if you have any ideas for where you want me to go with stuff like this is a community. I'm here to try and answer your questions. Leave me a note. And as always, if you haven't done so, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel a great deal. And share this with a friend. You might be helping several people at the same time. Thank you so much.